Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now September 3rd of 2020, and ever since the very end of the Skywalker saga, Disney and Lucasfilm have really been hard at work on developing their new Star Wars universe, their new Star Wars trilogy of films, and more for the fans to actually really enjoy new projects throughout this entire decade and beyond. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, one thing that a lot of fans will agree on when it comes to Disney Star Wars is that yes, we have seen a decline in the overall interest among fans with the Star Wars franchise, and that's exactly what Bob Iger and Bob Chapek are trying to reverse right now with these authentic Star Wars stories that will be released later this year, such as The Mandalorian Season 2, and of course, new projects next year in 21 and 22, and so on and so forth. Now, when we go ahead and look at The Rise of Skywalker as a film, or even The Last Jedi, or heck, let's just say the entire sequel trilogy, this movie on and off had a lot of problems, specifically Episode 9. We do know that behind the scenes it was a very shaky production. There were a lot of issues going into the film, all because of Kathleen Kennedy initiating so many different reshoots and rewrites for the film that George Lucas, J.J. Abrams, Chris Terrio really did not agree with at all at any point in time. In fact, there was a time where J.J. Abrams was going to use original concepts by Colin Trevorrow that Kathleen Kennedy rejected, so keep that in mind as well. Now, everything related to the Disney Star Wars universe, we do know that Disney and Lucasfilm are really trying their absolute best to deliver as much authentic material as possible from this point on forward. However, what's really intriguing all has to do with actor John Boyega and Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy. Now, this really is a big deal because it really does spell a recipe for disaster for some of the actors on board for the Star Wars franchise. Now, with the sequel trilogy as a whole, one interesting aspect here is that now that both Disney and Lucasfilm are focused on their new Star Wars trilogy of movies as well as the new Star Wars universe, both Bob Iger and Bob Chapek have been developing their new Star Wars movies and TV shows that are set to deliver a brand new mythology to fans around the world. Now, Chapek has been making major changes to Lucasfilm behind the scenes in order to create a better and brighter future for Star Wars. However, also, it's described that actor John Boyega, for quite a while now, even now has been having tons of issues with Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy. It's explained that actor John Boyega was very disappointed with how Kathleen Kennedy used the character of Finn in a manipulating way for fans throughout the entire saga of the Skywalker saga. John Boyega, in the early stages of production, was promised by Kennedy for Episode 9 that Boyega would become a powerful Force wielder or even a Jedi of some sorts in Star Wars Episode 9 at the time, before the major reshoots, and that he was actually going to get more lightsaber action in the movie. So in case you guys did not know, alright, there were two different reshoots and rewrites of Episode 9, two different phases, if you will, in late 2018 and early 2019. Now, let's point over to John Boyega, because John Boyega, obviously got shortchanged in the sequel trilogy. I really do feel bad for the guy, because when we look at what they did with him in The Force Awakens, which we're going to get to in just a second, but especially what Rian Johnson missed to do with the character of Finn in The Last Jedi, and then we had Kathleen Kennedy making all these different promises for the character of Finn in Episode 9, only to skip over or completely just throw those promises in the trash and just never really remember them again, leaving John Boyega, scratching his head, what in the world is going on? The character of Finn, there's no other way to say it, was really much useless in Episode 8 and 9. In Episode 7, there was a lot of potential, a lot of great potential, mind you. Finn, was this ex-stormtrooper from the First Order. He had a great backstory that they could have set up more so. They could have really done amazing things. In fact, there were original concepts for Episode 9 that Kathleen Kennedy also rejected to explore Finn's family, Finn's real name, and exactly what world Finn actually came from. Finn's entire backstory was completely rejected from the original cut of Episode 9 by George, JJ, and Chris, and Kathleen Kennedy did not want to spend a lot of time on that character. And I think it's one of the main reasons as to why Boyega is very frustrated. I'm sure you have been, hearing a lot about Boyega lately. Really, vocalizing his frustrations on social media, and that's a real thing right now. But with Kathleen Kennedy, she really did mess up when it comes to how she treated the character of Finn. But anyways, I digress. Moving on. Now, beyond all of this, alright, actor John Boyega was very disappointed with how Kathleen Kennedy used the character of Finn in multiple ways. Now, John Boyega in the early stages of production, like I say, was promised to have a ton of action, and was even promised to become a powerful Force wielder or even a Jedi, where Kennedy decided to drop this idea and went along with teasing to the fans that Finn was Force sensitive, and didn't really do anything with that further. You guys may recall that in The Rise of Skywalker, that they really did toy around with the idea of Finn being Force sensitive. And beyond that, they really didn't do anything much with that, you know, as far as him using the power in a very significant way. You know, sure, he used it with his mind on Exegol, pointing to which ship is communicating with the signal, but moving on. Boyega, looking back, also had problems with Kennedy using Finn in a manipulative way to actually, you know, make the fans believe that he was going to be the new Jedi in The Force Awakens, and that it was all Kennedy's decision to use Finn like that in the marketing of the movie. Boyega, throughout this year of 2020, eventually made up to his mind to never appear in either a Star Wars film or TV show ever again, or for the foreseeable future at minimum, and that he wants nothing to do with Star Wars given how they handled his character. Specifically how Kathleen Kennedy handled the character of Finn in all three movies for the fans to be tricked by Disney multiple times. John Boyega originally was supposed to have tons of action and would even use a lightsaber in the original version of Episode 9, before the reshoots and rewrites began by Kathleen Kennedy at the time. So this is another thing that we went over not too long ago, in case you guys forgot, is that in the original cut of Episode 9, there was this idea between Lucas, Abrams, and Terrio to actually have a second round between Kylo Ren and Finn on the second Death Star, between the fight of Rey and Kylo Ren. There was going to be a moment in which Rey would get knocked down, the lightsaber would actually fall and tumble down the wreckage of the second Death Star, where it would fall into the hands of Finn, where Finn and Kylo would have a second match, a second round, if you will, or a rematch, let's call it, right? They would fight it out, and eventually Finn, surprisingly, would actually have the upper hand in this scenario, where eventually Rey would step back in to protect her friend. So they would have at least given Finn a little bit more limelight using the lightsaber, having a rematch against Kylo Ren in a very unique way. Think about it this way, alright? You can see where a lot of stuff was cut. We have Finn and Jannah on the second Death Star in the final cut of the movie. He yells Rey, he watches the fight between Rey and Kylo, and after that, well, Finn and Jannah really don't do much at all. You know, all they do is watch the fight, and even that they kind of cut. We only got a little snippet of them witnessing the fight between Rey and Kylo, and the rest is really all the healing of Kylo Ren to becoming Ben Solo, and Rey stealing that TIE fighter with Finn and Jannah witnessing Rey leaving, and that was it. So they really wanted to do more with the character of Finn, and that was all pushed to the side, all because of Kathleen Kennedy. And really, at the end of the day, is it all that surprising? Is it really all that surprising that Kathleen Kennedy would do this? Like I've said before, I feel like that the character of Finn was just used improperly because of Kathleen Kennedy, you know, and her incompetent ways over at Lucasfilm. She really doesn't know what she's doing with Star Wars. And when we look at John Boyega, I really, like I say, I do feel for the guy. I mean, he signed the contract to do these 3 movies, and he was pretty much promised big things with the sequel trilogy, starting off with Episode 7, and especially with 8 and 9. 8 is where the character of Finn just completely failed. Nobody had an interest in him at all, sadly. And that's one of the main reasons as to why not only the toys were not selling well for The Last Jedi, but the other characters like Finn, Poe, etc., completely just not selling at all. Nobody cared about these characters in The Last Jedi all that much. They have potential in The Force Awakens. You know, it opened the gateway to possibilities at the time where it was pretty much unknown as to exactly what they were going to do with more of the minor characters. But they really didn't take advantage of any of that. So, like I've said before in the past, guys, you know, drop a comment below. Let me know think about all this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.